All right, I'm going to briefly show you what it looks like to use Kaizena, which is basically a tool for us to do, well, it's a tool we can use a bunch of different ways to do asynchronous discussions, which means we can have a discussion where we actually leave voice comments to each other, but without having to actually be logged in at the same time, which I think would be amazing. And I've been looking for a free way to do that for quite some time. The other thing you can do is request that you get audio feedback on something. And what's nice about the way Kaizena works versus using audio feedback in D2L or in another tool is that you can comment back and forth. So if you're, looking at the screen and you see over here that I've added some comments to this discussion, here I've added a textual comment, and here, of course, I've added a verbal comment. But if I was logged in as someone else, which obviously I'm not, but I could be, you could reply to these. So it can become a threaded discussion right there, and it would give you a way as a student to give me a response to the comment that I made. So this is really incredibly helpful for drafting, for improving on something as you go. So like the first time you do something, if you wanted feedback on it, you could come and request it in Kaizena. And it's basically just a little app that kind of builds on top of Google and on top of Google Drive. So you do have to use Google stuff with it. So I think docs and slides are what it uses currently. And the only complaint I really have is that the slides are gigantic when you use slides. Docs is a little more compact, but slides, they're pretty large, aren't they? But what's really cool, I think, is what we can do with it. So I'm going to scroll down and just show you really quickly, leaving a comment. So there's a few different ways to do it, and boxes refers to the different Kaizena options I have open. But anyway, so and as you can see here, the ones I've left before I can remove, I can add more to it, and since I'm a teacher, according to them, I can also do a few other things with it that you probably don't care about. One of the other really neat things about the interface is this little guy on the bottom. Apparently you can immediately talk to their feedback people just by chatting, which could be pretty cool, right? The other thing I like though is this other question mark. If you click on that, it pops up with like the most asked questions right there on the bottom for different groups. And you can change it to student, you can change it to teacher, whatever you need to kind of make sure that you're interacting with the interface properly, it should be there, which is great. So that's part of it. And I'm trying to think if there's anything else that's really helpful. There's notifications, you can have a profile, settings, all kinds of stuff. But so what's neat here is you can get a summary of what's going on with this particular file, what comments are going on with it, etc. You can upload a new version if you're ready to have a new version. So like my first one, for some reason the first slide was one from another class, which is really weird. So I uploaded a new one. You can add people that you'd like to discuss things with to your file, etc. So it'll kind of give you that summary. So here we can see that this is highlighted, which means that there's a comment associated with it specifically. And it's these two. That's why they're bright green, I think. But you can just add comments by just adding them, or you can add them to a specific spot. So for example, in this case, if I wanted to share an example of a time that I felt unsafe at work, I might just use my little mouse cursor to do that, and then decide what I wanted to add about that. And since I'm a professor, I could also add a lesson about this or how this measures a skill or something like that as well. But that just gives you a very brief introduction to using Kaizena. The first time you click voice, you may have to allow and give it some permissions in your browser, but that's about it. And you can always add textual ones. So hopefully we find this useful and a great tool in this class.